It's the Craggy Rugby Podcast. The URC is back. We're in a sun-kissed clan stand, myself and Danny, for Connacht to take on the Lions. Wind is dying down, but it looks a bit Dan. It seems to be relatively mild in here anyway. I'm sure it's a bit colder out on the pitch. But massive game for Connacht. All the results are going their way so far this weekend.
Yeah, and Connacht really need to just, take the bull by the horns and just get the win. I know there's a few people talking about bonus points, but I think that's going to be trickier than we think it will be. This is not a guaranteed 5 points. I'll be happy with the win.
Yeah, a win would be good. These are, as the coach has been telling us all week, they are the best travelling team from South Africa. So we'll take a pause here for a second as the Connacht run in. Well, yeah, so now the Connacht gun passes. I was just saying, South Africans, the Lions are the best travelling South African side, and they don't have any international players playing today. They're in the squad. I think this is the first time, certainly in any records I've got, going back at least 7 to 10 years. It's still provided a hell of a challenge.
Definitely, and they'll be wanting to break that the hold on South African teams Connacht have up here in the Dexcom. Not a single South African team has won apart from the national side. So they'd love to knock us off our perch on that one, because it was a big thing in South African media this week. It
certainly was, and I'm going to go off and write down Dexcom Stadium 100 times so I don't call it by the old name anymore, and we'll talk again on 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes into the game, the score's 7 points each. Connacht had a dreadful start, especially when Marius Lowe didn't get over for the try he should have got when I had him down as first try scorer. But anyway, we won't talk about that. Lions did score first after a load of mistakes from Connacht. But Connacht got back with Cian Prendergast scoring a try, and they also had a man sent off. So it's all falling into place for Connacht.
Yeah, everything seems to be, apart from that first 5 or 6 minutes, it's all gone Connacht so far. That wind has really picked up, and Connacht are starting to use the advantage. Lions don't seem to be able to clear their lines, and are trying to run it out and get themselves in a bit of trouble.
They certainly are, and that wind will drop at some point, and I will keep saying that throughout this as it drops, even if I have to wait until 12 o'clock tonight, and I'll bring it into the podcast. But so Connacht are drawing this game with a strong breeze behind them, but they do have a man advantage, and we'll have to wait and see if they can make it count. Half-time scores: Connacht 7, Lions 12. That's probably the worst 20 minutes of rugby I've seen Connacht play this season, and it all came from them getting a red card, Connacht winning a scrum penalty on the next scrum, missing touch, and since then it's all been Lions, and they're fully deserving their 12-7 lead. They probably should have another score.
They should have a lot more scores. They've had 8 entries into Connacht's 22 and only come away with scores twice.
Wow.
They should really be clear of us, but they're making just as many mistakes as Connacht are, just in the right areas. They're controlling the game, but they're making mistakes. They should be well ahead.
Yeah, I suppose they should be. They really should. They were playing against the wind as well.
Yes.
Them.
Into the sun.
And into the sun, and Connacht never really made any use of it. It's just been a hugely frustrating 20 minutes. We have to hope that the coaching team figure out what is wrong with them. They seem to be somewhat off the pace. They seem to be not able to handle the speed at which the Lions are playing the game, and they don't seem to be able to control the game in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, not at all. As you say, it was that one missed kick, and it seemed to have affected the whole team, which we haven't seen from a Connacht team in a long, long time, where one mistake and all the heads drop. It just seems a bit manic.
It does, yeah. Let's hope they find their mojo at half time and we get a better second half, because
look, the game isn't far gone. They're only 5 points behind. We're talking we're nearly 3 scores behind, really.
Yes, but we're going to be playing into a win that is at least a 7-point win, and it isn't as dying as quickly as I was hoping. Hopefully it will die in the second half. Okay, Danny's just gone 60 minutes. Things haven't got any better for Connacht. It's now Connacht 14, Lions 19. Intercept try for the Lions. Connacht have come back with a try from JJ, who's gone off with a head knock. Jack Carty's on, but things are, I don't know, Crowder are really getting on Connacht back, because they just seem to be making so many mistakes and just can't get into this game.
No, they can't. This seems to be a real issue, just not gelling at all, just making far too many mistakes, and then guys not working hard enough to try to correct them is what it feels like. Or somebody makes a break and it's nearly like standing back and watch them. It's very frustrating. And then, we're giving penalties. We've just put the Lions under a huge amount of pressure, kicking the ball downfield, and then we give them an easy out by giving them a penalty. It's really frustrating.
It certainly is. I don't know, can't quite put my finger on what's wrong, but the Lions slowing the game down at every moment is really working for them, and it's not working for Connacht, and the crowd are getting on their backs. But it's still possible for Connacht to win this game. Can't see where it's going to come from, but you never know.
Well, Boiler coming on might give a bit of an unfeasible and raring to go for a while.
Okay, well, let's hope Paul Boyle does it for us. We'll talk again at full time. Okay, it's not quite the end of the game, but Connacht are well beaten. I've got Niall Pakishiel, who's very, very annoyed and frustrated at this display from Connacht, probably the worst display in 10 years.
Well, maybe, but we haven't played well for a number of games, and then there's this game they've just compounding errors one after another. You wonder where the decision making is and where the skill level is through the floor. So I just have to figure, what's going on here. Like, I don't understand how they can play like this repeatedly.
Yeah.
To me, the same sorts of lads get chances one after another, and those players from that are in the squad here, and they don't get a chance. We've just seen Colin Riley come on at 66 minutes.
Yeah.
All no disrespect to Blady, but he was, he hasn't been at it for a couple of games, and yet this is, we're only seeing Colin Riley now after 66 minutes in a game. It's really disappointing. I'm wondering at the coaching, to be honest.
Right, we'll take it back from Packy and we'll finish off as another try is going to go in.
Yeah, try time.
38 points.
Game over.
Game's been over a long time, Packy. That's as annoyed and frustrated as I've heard Packy in a long time, but also just the general failing around here. Connacht were not at this game, were they?
No, they were so far off the pace. It's not even funny. I can't remember the last time I didn't want to do an end of match kind of talk.
This is way worse than the Bordeaux thing. This is, I don't know.
But no, like the Bordeaux thing was that was a team full of internationals. This is a team, they don't have any internationals. Yes, that gives them cohesion and everything, but they were so much better than Connacht.
Yeah, in every aspect.
You don't put yourself. You don't do that at home.
No, against 14 men for most of the game. Yeah. I think it was 60 minutes. 60 minutes.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. Like, the skill levels are through the floor. The decision-making was abysmal all over the park. They were trying off-roads that were never on. They were missing tackles front up. They were playing such prescribed rugby. Everything looked as though it had to be written down. The only time we looked anybody excited was when Jack McDoss tripped a couple of times near the end. Yeah,
he took a quick kick-off and reclaimed it. Like, it just completely off script stuff. Like, what?
Brutal display. And so brutal we need to go away and think about it. Here's going to be fascinating to hear how the post-match press conference goes. So, here it is.
Pete Wilkins, like, it's just the final whistle there, the silence, a smattering of dissent as well, which is always going to happen, but like, it's just really unusual to have a game end like that, a performance like that from a Connacht team. Where does it rank for you in your time here?
To be blunt, it's as disappointed as I've been. I think, as a coach here, I think we always pride ourselves on staying in the fight, and I think there might be errors in games. We might have days where we play better than others, but you continue to apply pressure to the opposition and fight for the scraps. And I think overall it was a huge anticlimax. And we had opportunities to control the game better. We had opportunities to hurt the Lions more, and I don't think we took them. And I think we gave them some soft ones. And ultimately, you get what you deserve, and that's where we end up at the end of it.
We heard this week from Joe Joyce, we heard from Scott Fardy. There was a lot of talk about preparation, a lot of talk about a really deep dive into what the Lions do. What went wrong there for you at this stage when you look at what they brought to the field? Did they surprise you?
No, I don't think there are any surprises at all. I think what you've said in terms of our preparation reflected how we went about it, and I thought there was excellent intensity in our training week, and it was probably one of the more physical and energised weeks that we've had for some time in terms of the practice that we had. I think, as you said, we did our due diligence on the Lions. We knew they had we felt was the strongest scrum in the competition. We felt that they, certainly one of the top three attacking forces in the competition, and they're up there with the best South African teams away from home. So we knew exactly what the threat was, but. by half time we'd conceded 9 turnovers, we conceded 8 penalties, so that's 17 times that we've not only given them the ball back but failed to capitalise on opportunities for ourselves. But also given them breaks in play. I mean, they travelled midweek, long-haul flight, difficulties with that. It was a great chance for us to get some ball in play time and really impose our game on them. But by half-time, we had 35% possession on the back of those errors and penalties. And when you're doing that, as I said, not only are you giving them a break, but you're also giving them belief. And whether they've got 15 men, 14 men, or whatever, ultimately, if you give up that many opportunities, then you start to feed the mindset in them that it could be their day. And as I said, I thought they capitalised on that really well.
What was bringing about those errors for you? So many misfires.
Yeah, there wasn't actually a trend in it. I mean, I'm up there in the coach's box making notes as they happen, as I always do. And, you're looking for patterns. Is it defensively not rolling away at the breakdown? Is it offsides? Is it around the set piece? And it was a bit of everything. And I think that, on some nights when there's not a theme as such to go and fix at half time, that can be more frustrating because there's not just an obvious aspect of the game to beat the drum about. But I think it probably showed that we were too loose in terms of some of that detail, whether it's a back foot offside or whether that's looking after the ball in contact or whether that's listening to the referee's instructions around the ruck. In terms of the turnovers, whether that's forcing the ball when we just need to bank it and play through the opposition a couple of phases longer rather than trying to get around the edge and get to the space too quickly. I just don't think we delivered on so many different aspects of the game, and rugby's a game that you get what you deserve, and if you don't take your opportunities and if you give up freebies, then good teams will hurt you. And one thing we know about the Lions is they're a good attacking team, and I think they showed that tonight.
They Connacht failed to exploit the extra man. The space on a rugby field is so important to find it. Are you frustrated with your players on the field for not figuring that out or attempting different things? They seem to be doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I wasn't frustrated with how they went about it in terms of varying what they're doing. I think what would have been easy, certainly second half, would have been to come out and start offloading the ball loosely or little chip kicks and try and chase the game too early. I didn't think we needed to do that, as you said, particularly against 14 men, and particularly knowing that as strong as the Lions are in attack, defensively, we knew there were going to be opportunities there for us, whether it was 15 men or 14 men. So I think to go off script and start playing too loosely would have been a mistake, particularly with how dangerous they are on the turnover. I think we could have played into their defensive line a little bit more. I think there were times where we were going out the back and probably trying to get to space on the edge without really sitting down the defence, and they were able just to drift off. That's something we'll certainly look at in review. And that's not any one player making a decision on that. That's as a team, just trying to move the ball and maybe trying to get the wins a little too early in the phases. So, there's some detail there attacking-wise, but, ultimately as well, we've got to stop them when they have the ball. And defensively, I think they were... I think we lost the physical battle defensively in the first half. I think there were too many contacts whether we had one tackler or two tackler in it. I think the Lions went forwards in that and got quick ball on the back of it or got little offloads in the back of it. And then second half, you saw, multiple times defenders getting beaten on an inside shoulder where we're drifting too far sideways, and you open up a soft inside shoulder and the Lions are able to capitalise on that. So, some of those things are fundamental to what we're doing. It's nothing that Scott Fardy's doing wrong or differently this week. It's how the players have responded on the night. And, I think that was disappointing because against any South African team, you need to be square off the line and very, very physical in defence. Otherwise, they will exploit those opportunities. And, as I said, we gave them too many soft ones there.
You went with a 6-2 split. Did you regret that midway through the second half? Would you have liked to have more options to change in the backline?
I don't think so. I mean, I'll reflect on that more deeply over the next sort of 48 hours. But, the way it played out, I think, to have that energy and try and get more intent and more physicality from the bench, particularly around the forward play, I think that was where we were going to get the lift in the game. I don't think it was necessarily that... we needed any different combinations or anything in the back line. I think, the opportunities were there for us, but 17 occasions by half-time where we've given up penalties or turnovers, you're just not going to build pressure on any team regardless of who you got on the field.
Just those final few minutes, Pete, you're you're brilliant at giving us an insight into the technical elements, and we can learn a lot from it. But there's an emotional side to the game. Dave Heffernan sat here maybe about 2 months ago after the Bordeaux defeat, or 3 months ago, and he was very broken by it. Like, how many times can you go to the well in these moments? Because I can only imagine how down they are now, and it's really damaged the playoff run for the moment, anyways.
Yeah, look, I think in terms of the playoff run, I don't think it's anything terminal, and that's not to downplay this result because I'm hugely disappointed by it.
So just to the emotion and the group.
But I think the key bit is you get bumps like that, and I think that's the nature of sport. I think that's the nature of professional sport, unfortunately. But really the key is what we see next from the group, and I know that's a bit of a cliche, but we talked about this game there being no excuses for us, and that wasn't out of disrespect for the Lions. It was knowing that we had really good preparation going in. We knew how we could hurt them. We felt we'd identified how they could hurt us, and it was in our hands in terms of how we performed. And we didn't perform well enough, and you look to see how a guy's going to respond to that. And we go to Benetton next, and they're a team that's floating around similar position to us in the league table. It's a place where, historically we found it very challenging to play there in terms of the type of team they are, in terms of the travel, in terms of the conditions when you get there. And it'll be a huge test of the character of this group and also the resilience of this group in terms of it's not as simple as just saying bounce back from this defeat this evening. You've got to be prepared to look it in the eyes and dig into it and process it and work out what you need to do differently, whether that's as a team or for the players personally. And that ultimately will decide the emotional state or the mental state that we go to Italy in next week. And I think Interpros, we were talking about downstairs earlier as coaches, it's easy to get up for a game against Leinster or Munster or Ulster. The emotion of the occasion comes to you on those days. But a long trip to Italy and leaving on a Thursday lunchtime and the challenge that will await us there with a team that's full of internationals, that's where we'll see the emotional state of the group. And I think the strong characters will stand up and they'll lead us into that. And it's up to us as coaches to make sure we keep feeding that desire and keep feeding that clarity around what we need to do over there. But, it's an emotional roller coaster. That's the game. And, for us, it's make sure that we grab this in terms of the response. And, we'll see that in the performance next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Cheers.
Caolin, thanks for coming up. It's the harder part of this gig when you have to come out after a defeat like that. I suppose first and foremost, give us an insight at how the group are feeling straight after that performance.
Yeah, look, pretty low. It's clear to say it wasn't good enough. It was embarrassing, to be honest. I think, especially Lions going down to 14 men, and it looked like we were the team that had 14 men. Look, no, it's cliche, but we're just going to have to look at it and get better. It's going to be a tough one to get over. But we're all in it together, and we have to move on.
You came out after half time, you're 12-7 down, you retained ball for a period of time, but what was the objective after half time, and how quickly did it go off the rails again, so to speak? Yeah, look, we spoke at half time just about the possession. They held, I think it was 65% possession in the first half, and if you don't have the ball you can't score, so we tried to hold on to the ball. I thought it was actually quite good. We got a penalty out of it and we got up the field, but look, there's just way too many turnovers, way too many penalties, way too many soft tackles, way too many missed tackles. But look, fair play to Lions. I thought for the first game that they obviously had a long travel during the week. I thought their energy and enthusiasm was better than ours. P. Wilkins said that you try to go wide at times that you hadn't, I'm paraphrasing here, simplifying it a bit, but you hadn't really earned that right. Do you feel that? Do you feel like you just didn't get across the gain line and create the space?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's credit to Lions D as well, though. At times it looked like there was space, but we'll have to look back at that. It was kind of a plan we had gone into it, and we just didn't execute any of our plans. So
there was a trend in the last couple of games. I know there were wins, but there was the Cardiff game universally kind of agreed was a poor performance and a nice one to win all the same. The Scarlets game had some good moments, but had a long spell of some poor stuff as well. It feels like you're not really finding your game since maybe the last couple of months. Do you feel that? Yeah,
well, I think it all comes back to flow. We're having too many unforced errors. Then lads start to tighten up a little bit, and we compound errors, and then we start to chase and we give away penalties. We've spoken about it, and it doesn't seem to be clicking yet. But look, it's obviously a really bad loss, but we've a huge game against Treviso now
next week away. So yeah, look, we'll try right the wrongs, but yeah, it'll take a few days to get over this.
Yeah, and particularly the last couple of minutes. I mean, I know there was some brilliant breaking rugby. The game had broken up a bit, but it must really hurt the group to see those tries run in on you, to really see that score rack up as much as it did.
Yeah, and look, it's not good to do that in front of our home fans. There's been 2 or 3 times this year that we've done that, and it's not good enough for them. It's not good enough for our friends, our families. It's not good enough for the staff here in Connacht. So yeah, look, we'll take it on the chin as players and coaches, and yeah, there's still a lot to play for this season.
Okay, there were some of the highlights of the post-match press conference. You would have heard the full interview with Pete Wilkins, because we put it out early for our patrons, because he was very frank about that shocking display, Rob Murphy.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, wasn't it? It was abject. Find all the phrases that you can find. Embarrassing, and so on and so forth. I mean, actually, when they got the 4th try, I said, this is embarrassing to Joe. And Joe kind of went, he went big on, no, Lions are playing brilliant, blah, blah, blah. But then he started to kind of think it through. I said, well, yeah, their last 2 tries have been an intercept and a blah. Obviously, when the 5th and 6th try went in, Joe went straight for those words then, because, and like literally boos from the crowd. I don't know if it was on your side.
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah.
I don't know how we feel about that, but I've always felt, it's just, maybe I'm on my own here, fans have a right to do that. I mean, I don't like bad foul-mouthed language. I don't like any abuse. But I think a boo is a very centuries-old way of just saying, yeah, this is not good enough. And I think everything you heard from Caolin Blade, who came up and spoke for the players, underlines as much, because I think they would accept it.
Indeed. Lindy, your thoughts? You've just filed your report, had a chance to think about it now. Wasn't particularly good in any. There was no redeeming features. I couldn't see any.
No, it's pretty abject, wasn't it? I mind you, I do have to disagree slightly with Rob. I don't like people booing anybody, because it's not like, I know they're professionals, but it's not like they're not putting in an effort, and it also hurts them more than probably it does anybody else. So I don't quite like the idea of people booing, but they have a right to.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I would never boo. It's because it's just the way I am. But I just listened to it and went, I don't. Yeah.
I actually find it quite sad.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I think it has to be marked by us in our job as we observe the event that was on. It's quite a striking thing, because I cannot remember the last time I've heard that amount of booing in a Connacht game.
Well, I don't know if I have, actually.
There was a game years ago where we lost to Benetton when they were just emerging in the tournament, or maybe by 16-15. This is about 12 years ago. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Well, I suppose it comes down to the expectations that Connacht supporters have, and Connacht have for themselves, and we in the media have for Connacht as well. We would expect, whether it was a loss or a win, we would expect a far superior performance than what was, displayed out there today. I suppose I don't know. I missed the interview, unfortunately, this evening, but I wonder if part of it, as happened before, is part of it the fact that they've had a break, they're having a rest. I think that all comes down to it. I'm not really sure in terms of the team management. Was there any issues there that, in terms of people who hadn't played? It was pretty obvious Cahill Ford was carrying an injury. He was kind of almost limping, and on this particular occasion with the split,
6-2 split.
The 6-2 split, there weren't enough possible back replacements, to take over from him. So I think it all basically was almost like that. Perfect storm, so to speak, that it just wasn't their day, and the fact that the Lions were absolutely exceptional. They were actually a joy to watch. I loved their handling, I loved their pace, I loved their heads-up rugby, everything about that, the way they actually, produced that win tonight was what we have too often come to expect from Connacht.
Yeah, Dave, it looked very prescribed for me from what I was looking at from when Connacht had the ball. Everything was very prescribed. They didn't seem to be, until Jack came on and suddenly did a couple of different things, and all of a sudden Connacht got on the front foot, but it was way too late at that stage. And the other major thing I had an issue with tonight was our skill levels were abysmal.
Oh, what's the point of me saying anything? Because, what am I supposed to say against that? Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain. There are sometimes you just go, people will want answers, and sometimes there are no answers. There is just
oh my God, this is happening, we are terrible. The Lions were superb in game time. They were irritating as hell when the ball was dead. They got a little bit of help from the referee. I've never seen a referee hold a tight head's arm up to prevent a penalty being given before. But these are all just me desperately looking for something to explain that, and I can't. They played like we were down to 13. They just found space. Their guys in the wing. There were guys there I have not heard an awful lot about. I want to find out more about
they had
them.
no international players. None. Not one of those players has played international rugby.
If these guys are the level below the Springboks, we should be very lucky that the South Africans aren't absolutely running away with it, because they were superb. Very impressed by Pretorius. Very impressed by the fullback. I thought Young Horn. I thought he was very good. Remember, they lost their tight. It wasn't like they lost the tight head with 5 minutes to go. They lost the tight head after 20 minutes. Would like to point out that.
What's his name there?
That is Asanate Intlabakanye.
Not bad.
Very impressive.
Also,
Absolutely.
Wrong,
Oh.
but very impressive.
Said with conviction.
yeah. You're going to get Monaghan news wrong tomorrow. So, you just can't explain that. That better team won. The team that played all the rugby won. We were terrible. That's it. I can't explain it. The only positive I take of that is a lot of good players for Connacht that weren't playing tonight, and their reputations may have increased because they weren't playing.
I'll give you some answers. I don't like the centre partnership at the moment. I like elements of what they are as players. I don't like the former forward. I don't like the 6-2. Like when I say I don't like the former forward, I'm just saying he's not been in as good a form as he was at the start of the year.
He got a bang.
My next thing is I don't like the 6-2 because he picked up a knee injury and we couldn't replace him.
Yep.
So I think that was a really naive. Naive is way too strong a word because I'm not a coach. But I think it was a decision that I put it to Pete Wilkins and he answered it. You will have heard that in the interview the way he did. But it's a decision I didn't like before the game. And myself and Danny spoke about it. Like in terms of what are the options, you picked a team with two wingers that just don't have a prolific scoring rate yet. I'm not particularly a fan of Ralston at the moment. That's just an opinion. He brings something that's technical that they really like, but I prefer Shane Bolton. I prefer Jeremy Kilgallen. I preferred Sean O'Brien last year, but he's playing for Munster now. Like there's a certain, or a couple of years ago, but there's a certain element of the way they think in this management team, structured wise and prescription wise, that I don't particularly like. Even though I like the way they talk, I like the way they express themselves, I like the way they represent the team. So I think there's lots of things that a lot of people sitting at home just won't be that happy with, and I think that the back line we lined out with this evening, I just didn't think it excited me, and I think it played out that way, and we didn't have any option to change it.
No, we're struggling, Lindley, to score tries, aren't we? We don't seem to be scoring a lot of tries, and that's just right across the season. Those two wingers have scored one try between them this season.
Smith definitely has more than one try.
Smith has one try for Connacht.
And yet he's a very talented player.
Absolutely.
So, is it just Smith, or is it those around him, or when he gets into position to score? I'm not an expert on necessarily on wingers. He seems to have all the pace. He looks like a fast player who should be scoring tries. The reason he isn't, I don't know.
Yeah, Danny said earlier, and he probably said it on the recording to you already, but it's just strange how he's not trusting himself on the outside.
Yes.
He's coming back inside a lot, which I thought was a great point from Danny. Wyndham just noted, and Kilgallen's only just back from injury. So,
yeah.
I mean, like, I'm suggesting, but there's been plenty of times this season where Kilgallen's been fully fit and not picked because there's a specific thing they like and what they're seeing from the others. So, yeah, I mean, even in that game, if you had another sub on the bench who's a back, you could have tried Ralston in the centre at that stage and tried to change things up.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Because I think David Hawkshaw is slightly lost at 13.
Yeah.
I think he's a fabulous footballer, but he seems to be slightly lost out there. He hasn't quite fitted into that role yet because it's still very new to him.
I think you also have to give credit to the Lions'
Yes.
I
defence.
hope we are,
their double tackling technique was extremely effective. And it actually halted so much of Connacht's momentum and forward play.
Yeah, because our forwards never really got over the gain line. They were accelerating into both all contacts, whether they had the ball or whether they didn't have the ball. They were accelerating into the contact that we weren't quite matching, and so they won the gain line more often than not. Which is, you have to give that South African rugby, isn't it?
And in the end, it looks like one team is running through, air, and the other team is running through porridge. As I look at, I mean, we look bad. I mean, as I say, we look like the team that lost their player. And I go back to, he got sent off on 20 minutes. It wasn't like it was, it was near the end of the game and didn't make any difference. That should have made a huge difference. Instead, it seemed to inspire them. They learned their lessons very, very quickly. They didn't make the same mistakes again. They never even came close to giving away another, even vaguely close to a yellow card. They got a little bit of rub of the green with a couple of things, decisions-wise, but not enough to justify a 24-point victory. I agree with Rob in terms of some of the players. I think they feel like they must have a preferred 15, and that doesn't necessarily be the case. I'm not saying players are in that team because of reputation, because a lot of those guys are new to the club, but I'm not seeing training. I mean, I know Al sees a lot of training, but I know we're not seeing what's happening day to day. We're not seeing who's going well. That team needs a moral lift. I think they may next week. I think Carl Foy cannot play next week because he was gone. You're right. He was absolutely right. He should have been. If there'd been a third back, he would have gone because he just could not. And when he chased that ball back after he was like, that man is injured.
Practically one leg getting back there.
So you might see something spectacular. They might be forced just to give the team a lift to bring Finlay and Bundy back in next week, which I think would have been a week ahead of when they wanted to. But that team needs a lift. I will be amazed, not only if that, because of injuries, I think there's going to be at least 3 changes because of injuries. I will be amazed if there isn't 7 or 8 changes. The team needs spirit. There needs to be a bounce. And bring in, I know maybe ahead of time, I don't want to get too prescribed and back to prescription, but also coaches can get prescribed to make changes because they feel they have to do it because that's when they're supposed to do it. And they pick teams because that's the team they're supposed to pick. You need to pick a team to beat Benetton and give the lift. Because you beat Benetton, you then you bounce into Po. Who knows what happens there? We'll see what happens. But your next 2 league games are incredibly winnable. But you have to beat Benetton, and you need.
And Benetton are going to be in, after they're losing with the last play of the game today, the Scarlets, they are going to be absolutely raging, and they didn't have very many of their Italian players back this week, so I'm expecting a lot of them next week.
On their best day, they're a better rugby team than us at the moment, for me. So I think
certainly at home.
I think we could bounce back and play really well over there and still lose. I think this is, look, I mean, we may as well make some predictions and call it. I think we're done for the playoffs. In my opinion, I expect pushback from that opinion because Dave will tell you, no, it's not over. But I'm just saying, my expressive opinion, if my head was on the block, we're not a top 8 team. We don't look like a top 8 team, but I think now,
well, certainly not after today.
And based on the fixtures we have left, I don't think we're going to win enough games. So now I'm just looking to that Poe game, hoping against hope that we can get a bit of a run in the Challenge Cup and save something out of this. I think we haven't recruited well enough at scrum half and had a bit of luck. I think losing Kieran Marmion was a huge loss, and I don't think there's enough pressure on Blade like there was last year, which was dovetails.
Yeah, because if you look at the quality of Nohamba, is that how you spell it?
Nohamba is what I was saying. He was outstanding.
Phenomenal. Yeah, he was phenomenal. So he was.
And Lindley said it, and Lindley always grounds us in a bit of like outside perspective. Lines were absolutely brilliant, and we know that, and listeners can't say that enough. I don't want to get too down on things, but and there's bigger picture stuff. We lost 6 of 7 going into Christmas, and the Munster game saved things. And the Bristol game was weird, but it saved things in Europe, and we were really outclassed in Europe. But the last 2 games were awful. You watched one of them. You've commentated on one. I commentated on the other. We won, and that's great. But I just think there's something missing. And I was talking to a Connacht fan a few weeks ago who was just talking about the future recruitment. Maybe everyone just needs to take a deep breath right now because we're spending a lot of money on a stadium. I'm not sure where this is going to go, but we have to learn to absorb some bad days with young players because the long term will be better. So that's my bigger picture stuff.
Oh God, we've turned into Wales.
I know.
Yeah, but Lindley,
we haven't because we're doing the right thing.
Sorry, Lindley. Yeah, I would have thought that this is. I still think is probably one of the best squads we've put together, but there just seems to be something missing because it's not clicking.
Look, it's hard for me to say. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and I don't know, sometimes what, the feelings are or their spirit is like. I mean, to me, what you see of the management team, it's a very strong management team. It's a very likeable management team, very open and honest. And so it's hard for us when we don't see, behind those closed doors, behind those meetings. Looking out there today, I thought that was a game that possibly Jack Carty maybe should have played. I think Jack Carty would have been able to put more pressure on them with his kicking game. kept them pinned back, instead of giving them so much of a heads up. And I think so, I think there's some options there in terms of personnel, and also Jack's leadership qualities as well. So, I think the way that the players are being, used, it's trying to actually use, to give all the players opportunities. But I think it's coming to the stage of the season, and it might be too late, where, the best players, have to be on that pitch now.
They certainly do. Okay, Dave. Any other business? Because I don't want to talk about that game anymore.
First of all, I am going to push back on Rob. We're not done yet.
I knew you would.
But I can understand why he thinks we might be. Look, I would say we could pull a Monaghan out of this until this would be the wrong year to say that. But AOB, first of all, Irish Women's, first of all, I would say congratulations on the women's team.
Absolutely.
They bet the spread, they put in a good performance. It's early green shoots. We have no idea. They could end up losing all 5 games, but at least it's already better than last year.
Yes, scored twice as many tries this year as they did last year in the whole competition.
I just wish that they would just abandon the Sevens project and bring all the best 15 and just stop. We haven't made the Olympics in women's, so that experiment, can we just stop it?
Here, here.
The other thing as well, congratulations to all the under-18 girls and all the under-18 boys who've been selected for the 2 tournaments. One's in France, one's in Wales. I think it's 8 of the successful under-18 interprovincial winners are going to Caolin Bay. Congratulations to all of them. I think it's only 3 lads going, but hey, that'll increase. It's better. Spread 3 is better than none.
Yeah.
Apart from that, and good luck to everybody playing tomorrow in the Junior Plates Cup and Cup finals.
Absolutely, yes. Dexcom's going to be bouncing tomorrow, I reckon.
Our producer William, I'm calling him today, is checking whether we've made the Olympics, because everyone feels we have made the Sevens but are still in contention. I think it's still in contention. Anyways, I don't care if we've made the Olympics or not.
Abandon it.
Abandon it. Antoine Dupont has given up international rugby to play a nonsense 7-a-side sport. I'm saying it now. I do not agree with it. If he gets an Olympic gold medal, it changes not one jot my notion of him and his career. I couldn't care less. It's a whole other thing. He's a genius for reasons of 15s, not 7s.
He is.
Good luck to that. That's my 7s rant. That wasn't my any other business. My only other business is I just walk behind the terrace on the Bohermore end, and it's a mess of people just leaving bottles and cans and chip bags and everything. It's 2024. Just because you're at an event doesn't mean you can just throw the stuff on the ground. Have respect for the people who have to go around and pick it up. There are bins everywhere. I cannot believe there are still people in modern society that could just drop their rubbish on the ground and walk away from it and think, oh, I'm at an event, concert, or anything else. So if you're going to a concert or any other event, Viva Stadium to Electric Picnic, bring your rubbish to a bin.
Lily, have you any other business?
Thank you.
After that, I daren't say another word.
Very angry.
Well, I've got one. There are 3 Joyceys. There's the Joycey on the field. There's the Joycey everybody knows who does all the kit man. And there's Killian, who is not mentioned anywhere in any publication from Connacht about who does the work. Killian works. He's nuts. He's everywhere. He's picking up balls. He's doing, bags. He's everywhere. He's running on. He's kicking balls back to Jack Carty in the warm up because Jack needs someone to kick the ball back to him. This lad does a ton of work. I've never seen him mentioned anywhere in the Connacht, anywhere on the website or on their program, their digital program. Come on. There's 3 Joyceys.
Can you play in our back 3? Because there's a space or 2 open. Never mind. Moving on. Don't finish on that.
All right. We'll leave it there, folks. We'll be back because we're back into normal rhythm. So we'll be back with press conference on Tuesday. Thanks, Dave. And if you want to support the podcast and if you want to hear early,
spread the word.
If you're a vanguardista of the podcast and pay us the £5 a month, you will have heard Saturday night, because I'll have put it out on Saturday night, what Pete Wilkins thought as Rob asked him all the tough questions.
Sorry, Alan, did you say it's €5 a month?
A month.
Do you know when people say like a cup of coffee a week? You wouldn't get
And we on match week.
How big a coffee?
You won't get that in my shop.
and we're talking on match weeks, 5 podcasts, 5 recordings get out there. We've got the live recording that we put out from the national press when they talk to Pete. We've got our own recordings we do when we talk to Pete. And we've got our preview games. Then we've got the coaches one at the captain's run. Like, we do our best, Rob.
you can actually buy the coffee and listen to that and still have loads of money left. Do
You
it.
would indeed.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused. Don't wait until